Welcome to Indian polity classes. So, in this lecture, we are starting with our actual topics which are part of our syllabus. The first one is historical underpinnings. Now, this topic is mostly relevant for the prelims because it is more of factual in nature. You have to remember certain facts and details because they are asked in the prelims. Now, for mains only certain special act are relevant, just like your 1935 act, your 1919 act of 1909. Only these 3 4 act are relevant for the purpose of mains because these are major acts, and there are other small acts like your regulating act of 1773, 1784, all these things. So these are relevant for the purpose of prelims only. So we will discuss based on that perspective. So we are starting with our company rule 1773 and 1858. See why we have divided these act in these two portions, that is British East India Company, another one is British Crown. Because see what happened in 1858, something changed. We will discuss in the act of 1858 that what was the thing that changed. Now this is a portion of your modern Indian history. The same thing you will study in your modern Indian history also, but we are studying in our political science. So we will study only those topics which are related to our polity. We are not discussing other things which are mentioned in your modern Indian history. Okay, so we are starting with company rule. Now first act in the company rule is regulating act of 1773. See these are just factual details, nothing to explain much, only factual details are there relevant from the perspective of prelims. So the regulating act of 1773. See why this act was passed. So before that we can study the details of the act so that we can understand why this act was passed. So the governor of Bengal as the governor general of Bengal. So what happened? There were governors. The governor of Bengal, governor of Madras was there. So what happened? That governor of Bengal was made as the governor general of Bengal. It means the authority of governor of Bengal was made more than the other governors of other provinces. Why it happened? Because the company, the British East India Company, they started capturing the Indian, so many princely states in India. They started from Bengal, and Bengal was a rich princely state, and they captured first the uh, princely state of Bengal. So the governor general of Bengal was made as the head of the other governors. He was given more powers than the other governors. Okay, so this was the reason, because the company started their wars from Bengal. They first defeated the Nawab of Bengal. You have, if you remember the battles of your Plassey and Buxar, they defeated the Nawabs. Sirajuddaula was defeated. The company took over. So the governor was having more powers in the region of Bengal, because now the Nawab of Bengal was removed, so the company has direct control over Bengal. It was not same in the other provinces. That's why the governor in Bengal was made as superior than other governors. So this is the first point. Okay, established Supreme Court at Calcutta. So see this Supreme Court that is mentioned here. This Supreme Court is different from the Supreme Court that we are having right now. Only the name was Supreme Court. The in actual sense it was not a Supreme Court. So this is just a factual detail. Bombay and Madras presidencies subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. We have already discussed this. This started tendency towards centralization of power. So basically this act was a first step in the process of centralization of power. See what do you understand by centralization? See there are two concepts. One is centralization, another one is decentralization. Both are opposite. See centralization, there is one authority at the center mostly. which have all the power in its hand. On the other hand, we have decentralization, means power is distributed among so many organs at one level. At the same time, so many organs at second time, and at third time at so many levels of government. For example, we have central government, it has its power, then the state governments, they have their powers, and also the local bodies or panchayati raj, okay, or municipalities, they are also having power. So this is called decentralization. And even at level of central, there are different organs, each and every organ are having their power. At the same time, the state, different organs are there, they are having their power. Similarly, at the local level, at grassroots level, they are also having their power. So this is called decentralization. It means power is transferred from the center to the local authorities. This is your centralization versus decentralization. Okay, so this centralization continued up to the Charter Act. Okay, what will happen after Charter Act, we will see. Next point is prohibited the servant of the company from engaging in private trade or accepting present. See, why this provision was there? Because company captured Bengal, so it should make more profit than previous, isn't it? But the reverse was happening, the opposite was happening. The company was not making more profit than it was making in previous time. No, it was not happening. Instead, the workers of the companies, the officials of the company, they were making more profit. So the company came to the conclusion that actually the servants are engaging in the practice of bribe. They are taking bribe from the natives. So they try to stop this, but it did not happen. Next point is control of the British government over the company strengthened. So again, this is a factual detail that British government started having more control over the company. Why? Again the same thing, because now the company has taken control over the entire province of Bengal, because it has removed the Nawab of Bengal. So the company is having more control. So ultimately the government of the British government would have more control over the company. So the next point is require the court of directors to report on its revenue, civil, military affairs in India. So again is a factual detail that the court of director, which are part of company, it means they are in India, they are located situated in India. So the court of director has to report on the revenue of the company. Okay, so what was the significance of the act? It recognized for the first time the political and administrative function of the company. See, it can come as a statement in your prelims that which act recognized for the first time the political and administrative function of the company. So you can answer that it is the it is the Regulating Act of 1773. Okay, so laid the foundation of central administration. So it was the beginning. Next act is Pitt's India Act of 1784. So what are the provision? Companies Indian territories were for the first time called the British possessions. So again it can come as a keyword in your prelims, that in which act the territories of the company were called as British possessions. So it is a prelims oriented point. Next is distinguished commercial and political function. So again it is a factual detail that what are the commercial function and what are the political function, they were differentiated. A system of double government. Now you will see that why this system came, the system of double government. So one thing we have seen that company took over in Bengal from the Nawab. So the second point is that company should make more profit, more revenue, but it was not happening. The officials were taking bribes. So what the British government thought that we need to change the organization or the functioning of the company. So they came up with new idea, that is double government. So what do you mean by double government? Court of directors. The double government, the concept created court of directors manage the commercial function. See, we have already seen that commercial and political function were distinguished. So one authority was created to deal with the commercial function, other authority to deal with political function. And what was the name? Court of director for commercial and board of control for political affair. Now, second point to note is that the court of directors, they were from the company. It means they were in India, but board of control, this body was in England. You have to remember this point, it can be asked in the prelims. What was the significance? Empower the board of control to supervise and direct all the operation of civil and military revenues of the British possessions. So board of control, the body in England, it was given more powers. The act gave the British government the supreme control, because see, board of control which is in England, it was given more power. So indirectly the British government is having supreme control over the company, isn't it? So the next act is Charter Act of 1813. Charter Act, what were the provision? Abolished the trade monopoly of the company. See, in political science, we are discussing these act and these rules. See, we are not discussing, or mostly we are not discussing the background. That what were the things happening in the background? This is a part of your modern Indian history. In modern Indian history, the things would be more clear that why certain act was passed. Also, when we are discussing the provision of this act, we are also discussing that why these acts were passed. But there are so many other things also that would make the entire picture clear. Okay, so we are only discussing the politics related part. So this is only a factual portion of your syllabus. So you have to just remember the keywords and factual details only. That too from the prelims point of view. So the Charter Act of 1813. We will discuss it in another lecture.